The smell hits you before the gate does. Smoke, sweat, something chemical underneath it all. You step off the transport and the air is different here. Thicker. The kind of air that coats the inside of your throat and stays. The sun is wrong, too bright, no shade anywhere, bouncing off concrete and chain link until everything shimmers. A guard points. You move. You don't ask where. You already know. This is the border detention facility. You've been in transit for 19 hours, no sleep, no food since a bag of pretzels someone threw into the holding van outside Phoenix. Your wrists are sore where the zip ties were. They replaced them with handcuffs somewhere in New Mexico. They didn't explain why. Your mind is doing the thing it does when it can't process what's happening. It goes small. It fixates. You're thinking about the faucet in your apartment kitchen, how it drips a little if you don't turn it all the way. You're thinking about the grocery list on your phone, the one you never finished. Eggs, coffee, the kind of bread your daughter likes with the seeds on top. You're thinking about anything except this, because if you think about this, you'll have to understand it. And you don't understand it, not yet. You are a citizen. You are a citizen. You have papers. You've had papers since you were 7 years old, since your mother pressed them flat in a folder and kept them in the closet behind the winter coats like they were sacred, because they were. Because she knew you didn't know. You thought knowing was for other people, people who had reason to be afraid. You thought you were past that. You were wrong. It started 3 months ago. A letter. Official. Return address from a federal agency you'd heard of, but never thought about, the kind of agency that exists in the background of your life like weather. The letter said there was a question about your naturalization. It said records indicated an irregularity. It said you needed to appear. You appeared. You brought the folder from the closet. Everything your mother had kept. The original certificate, the supporting documents, the photographs from the ceremony, you in a borrowed blazer, your mother crying, the judge smiling with the practiced warmth of someone who has done this 1,000 times. You brought all of it. They looked at it. They asked questions you thought you knew how to answer. They asked again. They said they'd be in touch. They were in touch 6 weeks later. The letter said the matter had been referred for further review. It said your travel was restricted pending resolution. It said, do not leave the country. You didn't leave the country. You went to work. You drove your daughter to school. You made the grocery runs. You answered every letter, appeared at every appointment, followed every instruction. You believed because you had to believe, because what was the alternative? That the system would see what was obvious. That you belonged here, that you had always belonged here. Then the men came to your door at 6 a.m. There are 2 of them in blue jackets with yellow letters. Your daughter is still asleep. You step outside and pull the door closed behind you without thinking, an instinct, like you can protect her from this by keeping her in the dark a few minutes longer. One of them reads from a document. The words don't land right. You're nodding like you understand. You don't understand. You're being detained pending a hearing, one of them says, pending resolution of your status. My status. I'm a citizen. He doesn't argue. He doesn't agree. He folds the document and puts it back in his jacket pocket and waits. You have 5 minutes to call someone. You call your sister. She answers on the second ring. Voice thick with sleep, and when you explain what's happening, she goes quiet in a way that is worse than screaming. You tell her about your daughter. You tell her where the folder is. You tell her the lawyer's name, the one you called after the second letter, the one who said this was unusual but manageable. You tell her you love her. You run out of time before you can say everything you need to say. You run out of time fast. The facility has rules. You learn them the way you learn everything here, by watching, by mistake, by someone telling you after you've already done it wrong. There are lines for meals and lines for the bathroom and lines for the phone. Always the phone. Everyone needing the phone being the only thread left connecting you to everything outside these walls. You use your phone time carefully. Your lawyer first, then your sister, then your lawyer again. He tells you the hearing is scheduled. He tells you the case is strong. He tells you these things with the careful optimism of someone who has learned not to promise. You've started to understand what that means. Weeks pass. The days are shapeless without the structures you built your life around. Morning coffee, school drop-off, the particular Rita,